Welcome to the Lonestar Collective podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Williams. Man, it has been one hot as hell week here in Texas. It has been blazing. I'm joined this week by co-host Austin Zamhariri. This week is episode 42. Our guests are Sky and Hobbs Organics. It's Hunter Robinson and Skyler Purcell. How is everybody doing?
Rockin'. How you doing,
right,
man?
Thanks for having us, y'all.
Hey, it's a great number to be for our episode number. Figured I'd point that out.
Just need the zero at the end. Huh?
Multiply it by 10, tenfold.
I don't know if y'all did that on purpose, but I like it.
I mean, some things happen organically, right?
Yeah. Meeting with our landlord, one of our biggest supporters. We were in his warehouse and he was walking us around, and part of his warehouse, he owned a whole city block in Frost, Texas. And basically we're walking around, and a quarter of this warehouse he used for an auction. So he was an auctioneer, he gave us the whole, hey, when I went to the, and we were impressed. And Sky, sure enough, we're walking around and we stop and we're having a conversation about the future plans for our business and the things that he was going to do for us. And Sky looks down and there's a tag number 420 on the ground. And we were just, our minds were blown. There was thousands of tags in this place, and sure enough, the one number that is right beneath our feet when we're talking big things with this gentleman was the number 420. So it was awesome.
Was interesting. I was
very
literally standing on it, and I was like, "What is this?" And he was like, "Oh, those are tags for the show." And the one tag that I'm standing on is 420. So
yep,
meant to be.
Yes, sir. So he got educated on what 420 was. He didn't know.
Now he's in the know. Always a great learning experience for everybody at some point.
Oh, yeah.
So how are y'all feeling? This case just got wrapped up for you guys at the end of May, 1st of June, correct?
Yep, roughly.
How are y'all feeling now that you're not under the microscope of the government on this issue?
Yeah, man, I can tell you right now, and I can speak for both of us with this one statement. We're feeling great. For me personally, my family, my wife, kids, we went through a devastating time, and the relocation and all this craziness. But I can tell you right now, I am so grateful. It's just been just a huge relief to have all this weight taken off of us. My wife and I were, we always get along, but we're getting along much, much, much better. We're hanging out, and we're at peace for the first time in over a year. And it's just a blessing, it's an absolute blessing.
So for those who don't know, we started off talking about you're not under the scrutiny of the government right now, under the microscope. Explain exactly what was being charged against you and your organization, your company.
Sky, would you like to hit that?
You can go ahead, brother.
Okay.
The charges were brought down on you, so I feel like you should take the lead on this one.
Okay. So basically, we were an indoor hydroponic hemp farm. Me and Sky are best friends. We grew up together. We were ding-dong ditching together, TPing houses together. We went through middle school basically together, sleepovers at each other's homes. And as we grew older into high school, we always had these dreams and visions of basically participating in this industry. And so in 2019, me and Sky decided that we were going to prepare for this. And in 2020, when licensing began, me and Sky got our license, pursued that industry for about a year. We were doing really well, very successful. And we were on our way up. Our growth with our company was parabolic. We were getting to the point where we weren't having to even sell any of our product in large quantities, even though we wanted to. We basically had a indoor hydroponic farm with a fully retail farm to market aspect to it. And on June 10th of last year, our farm door was busted down, and we had 10 armed deputies basically pursuing us like we were criminals. So yeah, that kind of put a stink on our business plans, if you could imagine. And we lost every dollar that we invested. 25 pounds of indoor hydroponic flower that was to be sold, and eighths and quarters, and our Sky and Hobbs cannabis customized packaging was taken from us. So it's been a journey. I got thrown in jail 6 months later after they concluded their so-called investigation. And it's been wild, man. I lost my job in the process. Thank God I got my job back with Microsoft. And it's been wild, man. We got in contact with some of the people in the media. Dallas Observer was kind of the first step after Sky had wrote a story on us, and the advocacies in this industry, advocacy groups have basically had our back. Shout out to Jay Maguire, David Sergi with the Texas Hemp Federation, Jesse here, or here, right? It was just this big circle of, there he is, just a big circle of, just everybody trying to get this, the situation taken care of. And it's just been wild. I can't even imagine, having to go through it again, or anybody else going through anything like this. It's just been absolutely insane.
So when we first, I remember back in 2019 when HB 1325 passed, and we knew at some point in one of these 254 counties across the state, we knew at some point one of these backcountry county sheriffs were going to step across the line and make this mistake and go into a legally compliant hemp facility and just make that erroneous mistake of trying to intercept contraband that's being illegally grown via marijuana. But we knew that when 1325 passed, there wasn't an educational package, there wasn't money that was put in from an enforcement standpoint to educate all of our counties and bring them up to date. So we knew at some point something tragic like this was going to happen. And so when we heard about your situation, it was of utmost importance for us as an organization to put that out there and to let everybody know that this is something that's happening. It is legit. And if we are going to continue in a legal hemp market, we need to start tackling this kind of issue right now. We don't need any other legally compliant farmers out there being unfairly prosecuted for something that for a law that was passed 3 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like, in the back of our minds as business owners and as intellectuals that are trying to pursue this industry, the ones that did all this research, man, we read the Farm Bill of 2014, 2018, USDA Final Rule, House Bill 1325, and damn near memorized them. We spent a lot of time traveling to other states where they were, legally acting and farming under the 2018 Farm Bill. And, the funny thing is, it's not in Texas's, House Bill 1325 that, education be mandated, but it's federally mandated that these agencies and departments be educated on this law. So, I think that, we get to a point where, the reefer madness era is coming to a absolute cliff, a dead end. And, I feel like the focus needs to be shifted in the respect that education was put in the federal law for a reason. I feel like us and anyone participating and the people that are out there enforcing the laws and dropping their gavel and bringing order to the court, most certainly need to be made aware of, first of all, the similarities between hemp cannabis and what is considered marijuana cannabis as well. It's the same plant. I think it needs to be understood that we're professionals, and there's a right way to go about having your suspicions over a hemp farm, and then there's a wrong way. And I feel like there's a defining line between the right and the wrong. It just needs to be established and understood. Small, big, town, county, whatever you want it to be. So I feel like, to go back on, the point of education, when my farm was raided, there was 2 deputies that were outside, and they weren't investigators. They weren't a part of the criminal investigation department. They were just 2 sheriff's deputies, and they made it very clear that there was no training, that was done on hemp. And when you get to a situation like that, where 2 gentlemen are so willing to admit that, cool. But the other side of that is, you had a whole bunch of guys that were basically in charge of the fate of us and our business, that weren't willing to admit that, and that were trying to do everything they could to basically get around that. So I just feel like it just needs to be elaborated, understood, stamped in law. And we as an industry need to get out there and do what's right, and educate and advocate for ourselves in this industry. But our senators, our congressmen, and the people that we rely on to put these things in place to protect us as citizens and as professionals and as licensed businesses, they need to get out there and do their job too, because I'm born and raised, baby, here in Texas, and I love this great state. But we can't have holes in law like that.
Well, I wanted to ask about it's how did one of y'all wind up getting snared in this and the other one didn't? That's what kind of confused me, is that you got the brunt of it, Hunter, and it seems that like your buddy did not so much. Like he said, he's like, let you have at it because you were the one that they wanted to take in and put the charge against. And it's strange that they went after one but not both of y'all.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the most alarming things, I think, about our whole situation is, you go back to the education side, is we had copies of all of our COAs for every single strain we had. We had transfer manifest paperwork. We had our licensing by the front door. We were fully prepared, and we went out of our way to make sure that if we were to ever run into this situation, we were prepared to the T. But I guess that's the paradoxical side of this is, you can do all of that. You can prepare as perfect as it gets. But if the county you're dealing with has no background information or knowledge or education regarding the paperwork that they're looking at, or even how to go about actually leading on an investigation regarding a legal hemp farm here in Texas, that leaves us at the mercy of their knowledge. And so to walk down this road for months and everything's in the air. We're being told we're under investigation and we can't return back to our building, which forced us to shut down. It was months before we could even step foot in the building and feel like we're okay to get what's left in it out. And then for Hobbs to be thrown in jail, it's weird how that navigated from the focus was our business and a grow facility and a grow operation, and then months passed and that turned into an individual charge on Hobbs for marijuana possession. When all of that had our business's LLC and license attached to it. So it's very paradoxical, and I'll let Hobbs expand on that.
Yeah, and I just actually pulled this up because I wanted to be able to quote it. But throughout this process, me and Sky we were our own investigators, and none of it felt like it made any sense. You don't hear of businesses going out of their way doing illegal things, and then one person within a partnership that are equally responsible for that business, tax paying for that business, making decisions for that business. It doesn't happen where one partner or one responsible party is indefinitely confined to the charges being brought. And there's a reason for that. Texas has laws and rules and regulations for almost everything, which like most states. And there's actually something called the Code of Criminal Procedure. And it's Title I, Code of Criminal Procedure, Chapter 17A goes over corporations and associations. And there's actually a proper due process for these organizations and corporations. And it was almost like they tried everything they could to just not look at us like a business. You know what I mean? I think whenever you're bringing charges against a business, you have 30 days to see a judge. There's no, these charges linger over your head, and then we determine that we're going to put you in jail and bring charges about you. No, there's a process. So I think it's strange. You know, Sky was there the day that they arrested me, and they wanted nothing to do with Skyler.
We made them aware that day that I was the business partner. We own this 50-50, and they still chose to.
You were like, take me too.
Yeah. They could have taken the handsome one and taken him to jail. Shit.
Whatever. Appreciate you, though.
Well, we're going to have to go into our first sponsor break here at the Lonestar Collective. I'm your host, Jesse Williams. This week is episode 42. Our guests are Sky and Hobbs Organics. We will be right back after this sponsor break.
Thrive Apothecary offers an experience truly unique from anything else in Texas. A full-service cannabis solution that is doctor-owned and offers customers every level of cannabis legally available in Texas. From traditional CBD products to emerging hemp-derived THC edibles, smokables, and now medical cannabis. As a licensed medical cannabis provider, prospective patients from anywhere in Texas can book a sponsored online eligibility consultation to determine if they qualify for a medical marijuana prescription from the comfort of their own home. Plus, for Texas veterans, their first prescription appointment is donated by Thrive. Visit thrivetx.com for more information.
Oak Cliff Cultivators is a sponsor of Texas Cannabis Collective and the Lonestar Collective podcast. Oak Cliff focuses on quality assurance with their hemp products while providing customer service to help you discover cannabinoids to meet your needs. Their product line includes hemp flower, pre-rolls, CBG tinctures, edibles, Delta 8, and merch. For more information on their products' quality or to shop online today, visit oakcliffcultivators.com or contact them at info@oakcliffcultivators.com.
Welcome back to the Lonestar Collective podcast, distributed on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Facebook, and much more, to give Texans information regarding policy, industry, and culture. Here is this week's host, Jesse Williams and Austin Sam Hariri.
Welcome back to the Lonestar Collective podcast. This is episode 42. Our guest this week is Sky and Hobbs Organics. I am your host, Jesse Williams. I'm joined by co-host Austin Zamhariri this week. That's right, he's back from vacation. He got to have some time off out in Florida. Lovely Daytona Beach. Man, I want to hear about Daytona Beach for a moment. I got to hear about the nice, wonderful Florida weather.
Let me tell you, I'm not on mute. Y'all can hear me?
We can hear you.
I have a bad...
Your camera ain't moving though.
Your image is frozen in time, but your voice is still with us strong.
As long as you can hear me. Daytona, beautiful. We were in Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Daytona. I took a little trip out to Melbourne Beach, which is just south of there. And it was beautiful, 80 degrees every day. It was a few days it was rainy. It was humid kind of during the day, but then it got really, really nice and cool. And it was funny because I was just sitting there, on the balcony staring at the beach, and I would just be getting these text updates from Dallas-Fort Worth saying 101 degrees, 102 degrees, 105 degrees. I really don't want to. Yeah.
Well, you turned into a robot on us at the end, so means the apocalypse is nigh, Skynet's taking over. Everybody grab some hemp and have some fun, right?
I say we sit back and blame Meta for all their AI that they're doing, nowadays.
Crazy thing, I actually got to taste some. I got to try out some cannabis in Florida while I was there. They have a burgeoning hemp program and a very robust medical marijuana program out there. So even Florida is kicking butt out there, and it's awesome. It's a fun experience. It's really, I know you guys said earlier that y'all had traveled to other states. It's really interesting to go to other places and other states and experience the cannabis culture and scene. And then when they're like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Texas," and they're like, "Oh my god!" They're like,
Yeah.
"What's up with Texas?" And so it's a fun experience.
Did they look
Yep.
at you like you're living in the Stone Age still?
It's funny because all of them, just about anywhere I've ever been, Colorado, any other place that I've been, when I tell them I'm from Texas, they're immediately. They're like, "When are they going to legalize in Texas? When are they going to legalize in Texas?" And from my experience, and this is why I say it over and over again, Texas has global implications because when Texas is the last big major market in the country to fall, and when it falls, you will see the entire foundation of marijuana prohibition in the country completely crumble.
Yep.
And then the United States as a country will be forced to redo a lot of its international treaties based on the war on drugs and completely reevaluate how it approaches the war on drugs from a global standpoint, correct? And so then you see Texas really does have some kind of impetus in global change when it comes to cannabis. So the work that we do here in Texas is very, very important. And I'm thankful that you guys are here to share your story because it's going to be history. And when we go back and we look at how Texas transitioned into a hemp cannabis market, we will see some of the stumbling blocks that it came from, and your story will shine. And we will make sure as an organization that it shines because your experience will not be for naught. You will not have spent, days wondering if we do the right thing. What's going on here? I'm confused. It doesn't make sense. All that time, that will live in history, and we will make sure of that. So thank you guys for being here.
Well, that's
Oh,
beautiful,
thank
brother.
you.
Thank you. And
Yeah, thank you.
what an awesome segue. I mean, we really appreciate that. And I, to your point, I tell people all the time that how is it that every state and country at this point that surrounds Texas has some type of medical marijuana program in place, if not recreational? It's only a matter of time, gentlemen. And the question is, why are we holding out? And how long before everything touching the borders and perimeters of Texas infiltrates its way in and forces Texas to change? And I think honestly, Texas is under the gun in that regard. I really do believe that.
Well, I think one of the big things that we're starting to see is that, especially from the New Mexico side, we have a very large border on the western part of the state that literally is completely recreationally legal, and we literally have dispensaries that are being built and run that are 10 to 15 feet from the border of Texas. And if you didn't think that New Mexico marijuana was coming into Texas, or you don't think Oklahoma medical marijuana or Arkansas or Colorado is flowing into Texas, I'm sorry, then you're naive because Texas keeping it illegal is creating a lot of burgeoning black market cannabis and allowing it to flourish.
Yeah.
And so if we were to flip that switch, then I think we're not only bringing billions of dollars into the state of Texas, into our local economies, but we're kind of ending a lot of the black market hysteria that comes from not just other states, but from the country of Mexico as well.
Yeah, and to touch on all of that, I think the part that's confusing me the most is, for the longest time, this entire economy that we've had, we've built it, and in our nation, we built it off of ingenuity, and then the American product, and all these things. But as times progressed, it's becoming less and less scarce that America has a hot commodity tradable intercontinental product. And the part that's really blowing my mind is if everyone under the sun from state to state, country to country, knows that this thing is going to become legal, why is our country taking its sweet time and not jumping on this ASAP and trying to make themselves the mecca country of the world in this industry? So I'm kind of mind blown by it. I'm a business guy. I'm always thinking, how to make a dollar, right? But we're not talking a dollar here. We're talking trillions. And, for a product like this one, there's no way that you can cheap out and beat the guy that's putting in money. There's levels to it, right? It costs a lot of money to make the best cannabis, and China's not going to be able to skimp out and make cannabis, for less. There's a way and means.
What
Period.
you put into the plant is what you get out of it. And that's why we tried to grow it at the highest level. But I do think it's important what he just said, though, is I think that black market stigma, as long as that's in a place where it can exist and flourish and you can make money off of, I guess the state can make lots of money off of the implications that come with that background. It's no wonder we're in the state that we are, and we just went through the unfortunate road that we just had to travel down, because that is the problem. Is instead of being viewed as medicine or organic or hell, I mean, Texas A&M and Texas itself is so proud of it as an agricultural state. You would think that the stigma surrounding this has got to change at some point. But here we are, we're still living that black market stigma, to what he was saying. And it's really unfortunate, considering, like I said, every state and country, including Mexico, is legal right now. And I don't understand why we're still trying to hold out. It makes no sense to me.
It makes. I put together a little animation the other day. I'm going to try to slap a documentary together within the next 3 months. And the first thing I started with was a little animation of the United States showing us New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. All of them have a comprehensive medical marijuana program. Texas is bordered by comprehensive medical marijuana programs. And you'd think by this point, with as many states that have some sort of medical, even cannabis, air quotes, cannabis, that we'd have had a constitutional convention on this by now. Because there's only 3 states that don't have anything whatsoever.
Right. Oh, and I think it's important to note that when you're talking about the surroundings, we're talking about multiple different states with multiple different political ideologies, which, it doesn't matter if they're a Republican state or a Democratic state. They're adopting this program for a reason. And for whatever the reason, Texas has decided they're going to hold out, and they're going to hold out, I guess, until further notice. And it really doesn't make sense, because I used to think it was a Republican thing. And it turns out, I think it's beyond that. I really think that there is a precise reason behind the scenes why Texas isn't getting on with the program. But to see all this going around us, and like I said, including Mexico too, it just goes to show it really doesn't have anything to do with politics. I think it is truly the stigma and possibly even the profit surrounding the money that the state makes off of, criminal charges on it. And it's got to change. That's the only thing I can come up with. What do you guys think?
I'd say a lot of it is in the states where it seems to be very conservative. The people actually get to have a say. They have a ballot initiative that lets them do it.
Yes.
And here we don't have that. We don't let our people have a say like that unless it's a constitutional measure. But it is time for us to go into our next sponsor break here at the Lonestar Collective Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Williams. I'm joined this week by co-host Austin Zamhariri. This is episode 42. Our guest this week, Sky and Hobbs Organics, Hunter Robinson, Skyler Purcell. We will be right back after these sponsored messages.
Thrive Apothecary offers an experience truly unique from anything else in Texas. A full-service cannabis solution that is doctor-owned and offers customers every level of cannabis legally available in Texas. From traditional CBD products to emerging hemp-derived THC edibles, smokables, and now medical cannabis. As a licensed medical cannabis provider, prospective patients from anywhere in Texas can book a sponsored online eligibility consultation to determine if they qualify for a medical marijuana prescription from the comfort of their own home. Plus, for Texas veterans, their first prescription appointment is donated by Thrive. Visit thrivetx.com for more information.
Oak Cliff Cultivators is a sponsor of Texas Cannabis Collective and the Lonestar Collective podcast. Oak Cliff focuses on quality assurance with their hemp products while providing customer service to help you discover cannabinoids to meet your needs. Their product line includes hemp flower, pre-rolls, CBG tinctures, edibles, Delta 8, and merch. For more information on their products' quality or to shop online today, visit oakcliffcultivators.com or contact them at info@oakcliffcultivators.com.
Welcome back to the Lonestar Collective podcast, distributed on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Facebook, and much more, to give Texans information regarding policy, industry, and culture. Here is this week's host, Jesse Williams and Austin Sam Hariri.
Welcome back to the Lone Star Collective podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Williams. This is episode 42. I'm joined by co-host Austin Sam Hariri. Our guest this week, Sky and Hobbs Organics, Skyler Purcell, and Hunter Robinson. Hunter is a Navy veteran. I don't think I've had another Navy veteran on here.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. At least you're not one of those, because I know you're an engineer. We've talked about this off air. You're not, and you have to explain it to everybody else. That way I'm not the guy doing it. I don't want to be the bad, I don't want to claim it's the bad guy, but you got to explain to everybody else, ayayas, if you remember that.
So that term, I think, is for flight crew, if I'm not mistaken.
It's the ordnance guys.
Yeah. So I'm not your best representative for explaining.
So they
look,
have.
man, look, I was a great sailor. All right. Look, leave me alone for a second, but let me explain myself here. I was a great engineer, and I was great for this nation. All right. So, so I just wasn't the greatest sailor. Okay, all right. So I don't know all the histories and the sayings, but boy, you put a wrench in my hand, it's going down.
Yeah, I was worked in engineering, electronics technician, and the phrase ayayas means if you ain't ordnance, you ain't shit.
Damn.
And I was always like, so if you are ordnance, you are shit? I'm confused. And then reactor department where I worked, they called it IR sad. If you ain't reactor, suck up. And it was.
I wanted to chime in and tell you, Jesse, man, the music this week.
We lost you, man. You're like, I want to tell you, and it was like,
my connection must be shitty. Can you hear me?
and we hear you now.
I was gonna say music out of this world for this week, man. You're killing it with the music this week.
Oh yeah, got me jamming over here, dude.
Me too.
He's a beast, man.
So let's talk about the Texas Hemp Federation. They've been such an immense support for you guys. We're glad that we were able to get everybody in touch together, get this all worked out. I got bring their screen up here. Y'all got in touch with them. They helped y'all out, correct? They got some attorneys. I believe David Sergi helped with this.
Yeah. So my defending attorney was Daniel Meller. He was based out of San Marcos, and I believe he was doing a good job. And the problem was, I don't believe that he was connected as the Texas Hemp Federation, and we got reached out to by them. And from the minute that we got in contact with the THF, and they basically comforted us, and they told us outright we have a lot of stakeholders, and personally, I don't know who these stakeholders are. I don't know exactly, quite honestly, I don't think it's any of my business, but I know that they reached out to all their stakeholders. They started raising a lot of money. I was getting deep in the pocket. Sky and I were doing our best to try to raise funds and do all these things, but there's only so much you can do when you're by yourself. And from talking with David Sergi, which is an absolute bear of a man and of an attorney, they made it very clear that they were going to take care of us. And within 2 weeks of being in cahoots with the THF, everything was changing. So I don't know how, you can get in contact with people like this and They go out and do the Lord's work for the industry, and how you don't try to get involved with them. But if you don't know who the Texas Hemp Federation is, it'd be a lot cooler if you did, you know.
Hell
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, just to clarify, because I just want people to fully understand is when your back's against the wall, and the state's, no pun intended, literally knocked your front door down. A lot of things go through your mind, and having to face family questions,
yep.
having to give status updates, and you're just left in this kind of limbo where you're not sure what north from south is anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's all hanging over your head, and the state keeps it that way, obviously, to make sure that we don't know what's coming. And I really want to express my gratitude and how much of a blessing THF was, and Jay Maguire and David Sergi. They were the first people to look at us and go, what happened was wrong, and we're going to make sure that we have your back, and that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that this is handled appropriately, and it's not just going to slip through the cracks like many of these cases similar to ours do.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Is it's
Exactly.
much bigger than us, and it's much bigger than our farm and our situation.
Yeah.
This is happening daily, and to have those guys show up, put their working hats on, and literally go to the grind for us. It gave us a sense of hope, because after a year of having your back against the wall, like I said, you don't know what to think, and you don't really know how to feel anymore.
Yeah, and I'll say this as well. They're not just a law firm, or David Sergi's not just a law firm. We're talking a organization that is built for these situations. Okay. And they more than anybody, Jay Maguire has dedicated his time and his efforts to handling these kinds of situations. And it just so happens that his organization is equipped with some of the most incredible attorneys that I believe our country has to offer. And that man spent so much time focusing on taking care of us in this situation that I don't know who else you could run to get a better service. So just amazing group. I did want to touch on something. It kind of brought me back. And I genuinely feel this way. If we were a part of this organization, and we knew of the Texas Hemp Federation prior to this whole thing happening, I truly believe that this entire situation would have been clobbered almost instantly. And the reason I do believe that is because I'm going to go right back to it. The Texas Code of Criminal Procedure and how you bring charges against a corporation is very, very, very clear. And I think that these guys would have handled that like no problem at all. So it's just I keep saying it, man, and I feel like we keep saying it, and I feel like there's people might start getting old, think it's an old message, but I'm so serious, man. If you're in this industry, you absolutely need to network with the Texas Hemp Federation. Absolutely. Amazing people.
It's important to note they really are a specialty within the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
And they specialize with cases like ours. So if you end up in a position where you don't know who to run to or what to do, go to the Texas Hemp Federation, talk to Jay Maguire, make sure he hears your story, and they're going to take great care of you from there. As long as everything adds up and you truly are innocent, and you did your best to make sure all of your I's were dotted and your T's crossed, they're going to hear you out, and they're going to take the time to get you the support and effort that you need.
Yep.
Well, one of the things I want to touch on is Austin will make the announcement, but I've been running a little thing at the bottom of the screen.
No, go ahead. You make the announcement.
The attorneys cost money. And I think a lot of people that are in the advocacy space are like, oh, these attorneys are doing such a great thing, and great that they lend their time. And it's like, the time isn't free, though. And because of that, we kind of want to put our money where our mouth is, and we are going to donate from the Texas Cannabis Collective $100 to the Texas Hemp Federation.
Nice.
That way it can help cover legal costs for whether it be y'all's legal cost or somebody else coming up. And we ask that people donate to this because while we hope that you would be the last case we hear about this, we want to make sure that if you aren't, other people will have the availability like you had, because lawyers are not free. We live in capitalism. People do work. They want to earn money for what they do. They got to put food on their tables.
Don't forget, freedom isn't that free either. So
exactly.
In that situation, nothing's going to be free. It does take hard work and diligence.
There's a cost associated. Right?
Oh yeah, there's a cost associated to it all. So thank you guys so much for going out of your way and donating and making sure all of your viewers are aware that this organization is saving and changing lives. We're living testaments of it, and we're very lucky that gentlemen like yourselves and the Texas Cannabis Collective and Texas Normal, all those people had our backs throughout the situation, because it was through your guidance that we even got our story in front of Jay and the Texas Hemp Federation. And then what transpired from there is absolutely magical. So once again, thank you guys so much. It's such a blessing.
Of course, that's it. When I built this into a nonprofit, that my goal was to help people, right? That's all I want to do is help people, keep people from getting arrested. I spent 5 days in Tarrant County for some seeds and stems, right? So I know all about unfair enforcement over something that is very arbitrary when clearly we have far bigger threats in this state than a plant. So, when I heard about your story, I wanted to make sure we did everything on our side to be able to help get you guys in the right place, get you guys all of the visuals from across the state. And there's a lot of people that are doing hemp in this state, and I don't think that they really are aware of some of the tragic consequences that might accompany this pioneering, burgeoning economy.
Well, dude, it's so crazy because, tragic consequences sounds so rough and so scary. But the fact that there's people that are investing their life savings into something where there can be tragic consequences should be illegal in its own. You know what I mean? And it needs to get fixed. And I think the question in the air right now is, how in the hell does it get fixed? And what's got to happen to get from point A to B? Because tragic consequences, that you couldn't have said it any better. We didn't really get much out of what we were doing except for the experience of being in the industry, creating a brand and learning and doing it well and at a high level, all for what? Tragic consequences. I don't think that that's how this thing's going to go moving forward. And I pray to God that, we figure it out here in Texas, because what the hell, man?
Well, Austin, what you're doing, man, it's essential. And I don't think I could say that until we just went through what we went through with the state. It's absolutely essential. We as farmers, I don't know if you necessarily consider it as a mistake or maybe just something that we never comprehended as a possibility, because when you get into this industry, there's so many laws, there's so much processing, there's so much paperwork, and when you divulge that information, it's not easy. So I think there's a lot of people and a lot of farmers out there under the assumption that as long as I'm doing everything correctly, nothing bad or nothing negative is going to happen to me. And I don't know about Hobbs, but that's definitely how I felt is when we take the time, money, and energy to do those things, I never once looked in the rearview mirror, because I expected all of that TDA paperwork and processing to take care of us. And unfortunately, you're right. It comes down to counties that aren't up to par. They are uneducated and they are unaware. And as long as those things are in existence and around us, someone's getting the shit into the stick daily. And unfortunately, that was us. But fortunately, there's gentlemen like you guys out there that are trying to advocate and promote the fact that this is even going on, and the fact that it can even happen, the fact that you can follow all the rules and still end up losing your business and everything you worked for and all of your dreams, all of that can be flushed. yeah, no, you guys, what you're doing is essential work in this community and in this industry. And I think you guys honestly deserve a round of applause. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think one of the biggest things that I always try to highlight is that sometimes these things, they're not happening, in Jim Wells County or some backwoods county down by the border. This is something that happened right outside of Dallas County. Like, we're talking about one of the biggest major metropolitan areas of the country.
Yep.
And this is something that is very similar that we see kind of in Houston, is that even around Houston, there's Montgomery, Harris County is Houston, but just north of there in the Woodlands, Montgomery County is one of the highest arrest rates for marijuana possession in the entire state of Texas.
Yeah.
So, just because you are in proximity to you're close to a major metropolitan area, you could still potentially be in kind of a danger hotspot, because these counties they're all independent, right? There's 254 counties that kind of run their own little part of Texas. Yep. And we have to remember that for almost 100 years, the state of Texas classified marijuana flower and hemp flower and hemp as one. It was one for 100 years almost.
Yeah.
And just because we changed the law in 2019, we're still facing collateral consequences from 100 years of marijuana hemp prohibition, right? Yeah. And that doesn't change overnight.
No, it doesn't.
So it's imperative that guys like us, guys like you, keep telling these stories, keep getting out there and rectifying the wrongs, and in doing so, we change the stigma, right? Yeah. We change the course of history. So Thank you guys for having the fortitude of being on my story, standing up to the state, joining the Texas Hemp Federation, allowing them to run their course and do their work, because Texas is going to be a better place because of y'all's experience. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, the big thing that I wanted to, we talked about in a phone call beforehand, was that I think it's a great thing for this podcast to be able to do would be to say that if you are a police officer, you are a law enforcement officer, and you are watching this, or a law enforcement officer that you send this to them, you tag them wherever you saw this at, and you ask them, what do you know about hemp laws in Texas? And that if they know nothing, that you say, hey, there's House Bill 1325 to start with, and maybe you should be asking your leadership so you're not the lowest person with the question on this. And that's probably a good way to start getting education out there, just disseminating it through our audiences. Yeah.
Well, Jesse, the part of that I mean, I think that's totally spot on. That should absolutely be done, and it's a valid recommendation. But I think something that exposed itself kind of unknowingly throughout the legal process we went through is, do you guys know the Spider-Man meme where like they're taking off the mask and they're all pointing at each other over the same issue, so you don't really know where it's stemming from?
Yeah.
Y'all know what I'm talking about. Exactly. That's really kind of what we experienced through the whole legal process is you want to point the finger at the county, but the counties will point the finger at the DA, and the DA is going to point its finger towards the attorney general, and
it's buck passing.
Right. It circulates, and nobody wants to take, I guess, initiative or acknowledge that, hey, there's an ongoing issue, and the appropriate education isn't being funded or even performed. Yeah. So as long as that's the case, how are we supposed to move forward, and who are we supposed to point the finger at?
A way of easily stating that is duties got delegated, but for some reason the responsibilities did not get delegated with that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to say, was almost precisely to meet Sky's point is, I've always been available and reaching out, and me and Sky both, to educating all of those around us, all of those that are interested, and even lending our, knowledge and assistance to the local sheriffs and police where we were at. Heck, our mayor was one of our biggest students, you
He
know.
sure
So
was. He sure was.
yeah, dude used to scare the shit out of me walking in my farm. So not many people walked in there. It wasn't like a public business, but I'll be damned if the sheriff wasn't, or not the sheriff, the mayor wasn't allowed. And he was about 75 years old, walk in with his cowboy boots on and a cowboy hat, and we were good friends. But you know,
Hey, Hobbs, correct me if I'm wrong, but he literally told us when he came to the farm, he said, "What you got going on here, gentlemen, is amazing.
yeah.
If anyone ever
Lovely.
gives you an
Yeah.
issue, you give me a call."
Well, we're talking like a 10th generation farmer, y'all. So this dude was like just amazed that, you know, that a farming operation was being
Indoor.
indoor. Yeah, so he was so impressed. He was such a nice guy, man.
He's a
So
great guy. But unfortunately, he can't do much about law
no,
enforcement. So
no. And so the other side of that is, you know, I feel like we've reached a point where everybody's, you know, I don't know what finger where to point at any, you know, whatever, you know, but the thing is, um, that kind of thing's going to continue happening, right? Until there's a mandate of education amongst these, you know, these municipalities, these judges, and until that kind of thing comes down the pipeline and it becomes established and set in stone, you know, you're going to have a whole lot of Sky and Hobbs Cannabis Company situations, and I hope to God it doesn't happen again.
And something we talk about where we're pointing the finger at, and I would say something that we don't hear a lot about, especially in mediums like this, is to point the fingers back at ourselves for a second.
Yeah.
Just the general public to say, we need to be the ones holding our government accountable to do those mandates, to say, hey, you need to disseminate this information.
Yeah.
It's unreasonable that overnight the cops know about a change in concealed carry and permitless carry, but they obviously know nothing about hemp, which was a major drug change in our state, in our country.
Yeah. Well, and then to top you off on that one is, you know, we're with the THF and we talk with Jay and David all the time. And I can tell you that there's a lot of really good things happening as far as, you know, the attorney bars here in Texas with, you know, just David's going out there campaigning for this industry. And he's meeting, you know, with, you know, some of the the whole bar of Texas to try to establish basically a cannabis leg. But on top of that, you know, there's also the possibility that, you know, me, potentially Sky, and the THF, we head to Austin and get in front of our senators, and that's something I'd be absolutely willing to do.
Let's do it.
You know, this story's, it's not like it's a big secret. It was a secret for a while because I didn't want to publicly shame myself, but that happened anyways. And, you know, I'm at the point now where it's not about me. It's not about Sky and Hobbs. It's about, you know, all the other people that are out there still doing this and still participating. And I'm fully willing to do anything I got to do to help get the message out and educate and just help move this industry forward, because there's a lot of people that are great, good people and good, honest businesses with families and children that deserve better. So definitely willing.
We've got just a couple moments left here. If there's anything else, anybody else you want to mention, anything you want to plug, website, anything you got left on your mind?
I would say Matthew Buchanan with Jane Sampling. If you guys are a licensed grower and you need a really good, dependable, by the book handler sampler, Jane Sampling and Matthew Buchanan, his wife, you know, they are just amazing, great people, and we wouldn't have been able to stay compliant and follow the rules without them. And I feel like we put a lot of trust into what they did for us. And man, if it wasn't for them and their due diligence and the way that they practice and their SOPs, I'm not sure where we'd be. So shout out to Matthew and his wife and Jane Sampling, you guys.
Yeah, they're awesome. And then to segue off that, the other side is you need that testing done, y'all. And you need a damn good lab to do it, to make sure that all of your compliance is taken care of. So shout out to Jesse Kearns and New Bloom Laboratories in Dallas. They are the absolute shit. They are so accurate. They are so willing to help. I can't tell you how many times Jesse's reached out to me personally and said, man, if you need me to testify, if you need me to get on that stand, if you need me to run your paperwork, I've got it all here. Never once did they not take absolute supreme care of us.
Yeah.
And so between Jane Sampling and New Bloom Laboratories, man, if you're looking to get it done and done right, and then if you end up in a legal situation like us where it has to be right, stick with those two companies. They're going to take damn good care of you.
Yeah.
So my last little thing I will say is, so if I was a officer and I came up to you and I said, I don't know much about no hemp. What about hemp? Do I know hemp?
Well, it'd be a lot cooler if you did, man.
Right on. Right on.
You guys are awesome.
Hey,
You guys are so cool.
hemp on, baby.
Man, we appreciate you.
Keep on hemping, y'all. Don't stop.
Don't stop
Just because we got forced to stop, don't mean you should stop. Keep going,
We're
baby.
gonna keep this train rolling, guys, and I know at some point you guys are gonna be. You're gonna forever. Y'all are gonna be with us.
And by the way, that little Texas logo with the leaf in it, or that has the Texas flag, we had that in our farm. Just FYI.
Sure
A
did.
huge one, huge flag. This thing was gigantic. So
Nice.
it's a great image, man.
So I'm hoping that whatever venture y'all go off into next, whether y'all get back into the hemp industry, if it's some engineering gig or journalism gig, that y'all will be rocking successful at it. That is going to be our time this week for the Lonestar Collective podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Williams. I'm joined by co-host Austin Zamhariri this week. This was episode 42. Our guest was Sky and Hobbs Organics, Skyler, Purcell, and Hunter Robinson. It has been quite an episode. We hope you join us next week. We are hoping to have Trey Phillips on from Thrive Apothecary. Y'all have a wonderful week.
Love. God bless.
Much love.